Hey everyone, it's time to kick off another exciting edition of our DevOps office hours. It's June 7th, 2023. My name's Eric Osterman and I'll be leading the conversation. I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. Cloud Posse helps teams conquer AWS using our rock solid Terraform blueprints. Whether you're starting from scratch or just not happy with your current setup, book a session with me by going to cloudposse.com/quiz, answer a few quick questions. We'll have a call to show you exactly how your team will succeed on AWS. For those of you new to the call, don't worry, our format's very informal. My goal is to answer your questions. If you're curious about Cloud Posse or any of our open source tools or modules, this is a great place to ask. And for those of you joining through our podcast or YouTube channel, we host these calls every week, so don't miss out. You can register for these live and interactive sessions by going to cloudposse.com/office hours. Again, that's cloudposse.com/office hours. Our call today is recorded. We'll post a recording of this session to our YouTube channel. So if you want to support what we do over here, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. It helps us out a great deal. If you want to do that, just head over to youtube.com/cloudposse. Again, youtube.com/cloudposse. It's also a great place to find the videos from our sessions. So if you find anything interesting from our session today and you want to share it with your team, that's where you can find the recording. Thank you for that opportunity. All right, so announcements. One that just caught my eye during lunch was this one here. The EFF is doing God's work, fighting patent trolls. And apparently one of the devices that they use to win some of those patent battles is being challenged itself, which will prevent them from even being able to file the patents as a outside organization. I haven't, that's all I had a chance to skim through it, but if they're sounding the alarm, I take it seriously. God knows we need more people fighting patents, the objectionable type. I like this little example I found as I saw another security announcement by the same company, Garden.io. So if you're not familiar with Garden.io, they're one of the alternatives for simplifying local development environments on Kubernetes. Well, I believe they're actually not local. I believe they are remote development environments, so you don't have to eat up all the resources on your laptop, but can be integrated also, I guess, with CI, but also run locally. At least that was the Garden that we've tested out in the past. Anyways, why I'm sharing it isn't that so much as I thought it was a nice comprehensive example using CDK to bring up a development cluster on AWS. And if you as a Terraform user, you might be curious to see what that looks like. And they provide the complete example here from the file that kicks it all off. And then you can look inside the source directory for the individual code itself. Which leads me to the article that got me digging into that other article, that other example, quick start. So Garden disclosed that they had found a pretty bad security issue, or kind of more like a misconfiguration in how the AWS CDK provisioned EKS clusters. And skimming through this, the crux of the problem was that in an account, so long as the ability to assume roles was permitted, any role in the could be assumed to access the EKS cluster, which could mean also assuming a role in the EKS cluster that had administrative permissions. Matt, were you about to say something? Nope. All right.
I wasn't. I got disconnected and just reconnected, so I was unmuted. Sorry.
That's all right. I just saw your head pop up there. So yeah, so that's been patched and fixed. But if you have deployed EKS with the CDK and you haven't updated that recently, it sounds like something you might want to upgrade. All right. Another one was an announcement shared by Mr. Jenkins. Looks like AWS is backpedaling on an initial attempt to open source or at least make their documentation public via GitHub. AWS is obviously a very metrics-driven organization, and I guess they ran the numbers and it wasn't working for them, combined with the fact that they had issues that a lot of the documentation originates internally, and then they syndicated it outward towards GitHub, vice versa, and that was just not working. They had basically the standard issues you would expect to have if you are having multiple sources of truth kind of being updated at the same time. So too bad they couldn't just update their internal systems, I guess, to go to the GitHub version.
Yeah, and my favorite comment on that was you shouldn't have your customers writing your documentation for you anyway.
Well, that's not, yeah, I mean, yeah, you shouldn't have your customers writing your documentation, but a lot of customers enjoy submitting little fixes that they find here and there, and you might not be aware of all those little nitpicks here and there where you screw up things. We had one of those this past week. A customer found that we had a string missing in one of our examples and pointed that out to us to fix.
Yeah, maybe writing your documentation is an overstatement, but yeah, contributing to the documentation, yeah, I get it, because I mean, just like you said, folks might want to add some nuance to documentation that's kind of general, and that's appreciated. But I guess it's a bummer when you try to and it just sits there and doesn't get accounted for. So if it was all in GitHub, that would be cool, but since it's not, like the flow that you mentioned, it just kind of breaks both ways.
I'm also happy. Sorry, I'm also happy they did this, because at least people won't be frustrated with, like, I opened the PR on an AWS Docker, and it's been 6 months and they've completely ignored it, and I rebased 3 times and all that. Like, I opened up a PR and it was, and I'm connected to a bunch of AWS people, so I can forward it and be like, hey, merge this. And it took like more than 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't working. Props to them for actually admitting, like, hey, this doesn't work. Sorry, we tried. We're gonna make it private again. Like, at least folks won't waste time creating pull requests that are never gonna be merged. And why it didn't work, that's a more complex topic. Like, AWS's internal documentation is written in a fancy flavor of XML, and I'm not linking anything internal here. This was, I don't know, discussed on Twitter or Hacker News or Reddit, I don't know. And Markdown is a really bad format for anything that requires complex structures and many info buttons and pop-outs and stuff like that, like the AWS doc does. So it wasn't a fit. They had to move from Markdown to XML, and it was a whole complex thing. But again, at least they admitted, hey, it doesn't work, and folks aren't gonna waste time. So props to them.
Sometimes saying no is better than just pushing back. What were you going to say, Matt?
Yeah, I was just going to say what I would have loved to see in conjunction with this is them to also release an easy way to report documentation, like things that are missing or things that are wrong or whatever. Like, now they kind of just made it, they said, okay, well, we're not going to deal with people who opened, PRs that didn't get merged anymore, like Vlad just said, but then they didn't also give you an easy way to report it to the right people.
They have that actually. So at the bottom of every page, there's a send feedback button. And that's basically, you have to fill out a form. And that goes directly to the service team with quite a high priority. Like, they're not gonna reply to you unless they really, really, really need to. But it does get to the team and it's prioritized quite highly.
Yeah, I guess I meant some sort of a more transparent process, like how you could follow an issue to see that it was kind of like tracked until done, that kind of thing. Like, that's just kind of like you scream into into an open canyon and you never hear anything back, and you hope like someday it shows up on the page, like that kind of thing.
Yep. Actually, related to what you said, Matt, and I've looked for this personally. Now it's been over a year. All right. Can you guys hear me? Oh, I just saw everything freeze there for a second.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it would be like a browser-based plugin, not a browser-based plugin. I meant to say a JavaScript widget you can install on a site that would allow users to do redlining and submit those red lines. I think that would be a pretty interesting ability. Not complex things like tables and images, but at least to be able to like highlight something like this and, suggest that, something should be changed here about that. And then to Matt's point, notification if it's been accepted or rejected.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say really quickly that Vercel and Sanity, the CMS platform, just released a joint solution that allows you to do that with like preview requests. But I'm sure they could do it on the main branch too, where basically you deploy your website to like, in a preview environment, and then it gives anyone that runs the browser the ability, it's Sanity, just Sanity. It was a new, but Sanity is a CMS platform, so you have to go like Vercel Sanity preview environment editing or something like that.
And the comment that I was going to add, Eric, I think
that's it.
Google had a tool that was like that, and maybe it's in the Google graveyard. Comment and discuss any website, and it popped up like in a sidebar, and anybody could contribute a discussion or have a discussion around any web page on the internet. I forget the name of the tool, but I think there was something out there like that. It didn't contribute to like workflows and feedback to the website's author or maintainer, but there was something like that.
You all are so hopeful and so straight white male. Like the conversation is gonna go right into the trash, and it's gonna be so much spam and so annoying and so much misinformation and ChatGPT generated feedback and ideas. Oh, no.
Brave. It's a brave new world. That's true. In a perfect world, I would like to see it.
Yeah. So I'm not suggesting this for AWS, but this Vercel one, if you keep scrolling down, I think it shows you like that right there. So in your preview environment, you basically, anyone that has access to the preview environment can basically suggest a change. And then the owners of that can go through the suggested changes and accept them or reject them, just like, kind of like a pull request, suggested change. And then it basically updates the underlying content in the CMS system. When you do that, it's kind of pretty cool how it works for this. I'm not suggesting this would be good at the scale of AWS's documentation, but it's definitely good for some things. It's pretty cool.
Cool idea. All right. Next one is the general availability announcement for Amazon Security Lake. Can someone tell me if Security Lake kind of fulfills a SIM requirement as a way to dashboard and report on everything going across all your logs and events? Or would you still have to have a SIM on top of the Security Lake?
I think you still need the thing on top. So Security Lake is CloudTrail, but with CloudTrail in S3, but with AWS partners. So folks like Datadog or other AWS partners can just send their security events to Security Lake, which is awesome because you as a company get everything in a single place, which is Security Lake. But you still need to build stuff on top of that, or use other products.
If you read the last sentence of that first paragraph that's showing on your screen, Eric, that kind of like tells you, it says in response, no, keep right, you just had it on screen right there. It just says in response, so organizations can effectively issue, no, the paragraph right above. It says they can, the last sentence, it basically says using their preferred analytics tools. So you can respond to potential issues quickly using their preferred analytics tool. So the idea is that you aggregate all the raw data into a single place, and then your analytics tools, whether it be a SIM platform or, or Redshift or, whatever you happen to use for all of these things. It ingests from a single place to get all of that information. You don't have to worry about trying to aggregate it all from your analytics tool.
Implement all the different interfaces to AWS services to extract that data, use this. And you still
need the
data to some degree, I guess, then, since it's in S.
You do. But the data itself is also in an open standard format too. Like there's, if you scroll around in here, I forget, it's like OC something. Maybe go all the way up to the top. I'm sure it mentions it in like, yeah, that's it. That's the format.
What was it?
I think it's OCSP. I think it's further up on the top. You'll see the acronym, or maybe it wasn't SP. Maybe it wasn't.
There it is. The Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework, OCSF. Yeah.
Amazon is essentially focusing on the centralizing of data. Then they make the easy money on the data storage, which does the same thing to do with CloudWatchLogs and CloudTrail. And then you're still going to need a SIEM of some sort for, like, you could probably build it on Amazon tools, but if you want just a out of the box SIEM, you'd still need that SIEM to handle like your instant response and alerting and everything else.
Makes sense.
Dan Hamilton posted a link in chat, which is really, really good for Snowflake. Snowflake also has a thing that's kind of similar.
Yeah, I just recall being a part of a demo where Lacework and Snowflake were trying to do basically the same thing, where it's essentially you just aggregating all your data there. I don't quite understand like the lift or the benefit of aggregating it with a data lake versus, other logging solutions, but
I think the idea is that you take all of your disparate log sources, you transform them into a common format that has common set of metadata like on them, so that you can do event correlation and analysis and all those things across all of the security events, and then you use some other tool basically to do all of that piece of the correlation and everything. But like the data lake is basically getting it into the same format, like aggregating it from all the disparate sources and getting it into the same common format with the same types of metadata that you can use across all your tools.
And that can be a lot of work. It can be a huge amount of work. It also is, I think it's doing it across the organization, and some of us have organizations with hundreds of Amazon accounts.
Yeah, exactly.
And because like I can't see the tool we use for our SIEM, but we had to collect from CloudTrail, from S3. Well, we enabled the advanced CloudTrail, which is stuff from S3, from AWS config, from general CloudWatchLog groups. But then other things weren't going to CloudWatchLog groups, they were going to Kinesis. So we had to collect from Kinesis, and many of them had different RDS logs and all these different things. They had different formats, right? So consolidating all that, having an easy consolidation into one place is something we've been asking Amazon to do for a long time. So I haven't looked at the pricing. If the pricing is fair, then it's very worth having that.
Yeah, and I think if you look at that announcement that you had open before, Eric, if you just pop open, it says right there from more than 80 sources. If you pop that open and take a look, like there are literally, 80 different possible sources that you can aggregate the data from, not just AWS sources in that same format. So if you're using a lot of third-party tools, you can aggregate it as well as your AWS stuff. So it literally makes it easier to aggregate everything that you're using across your enterprise into a single source.
That's awesome. And then a single source, and then all in the same format.
Correct. All in that same open standard
The same format is the hard part, because normally you have a format. Even within Amazon, you have tons of different formats.
So does this mean that you can now use Snowflake as the platform to build out a SIEM?
I mean, maybe, but I think that's like saying, can I use Lambda as the platform to build out, the most complex application you can think of? Yes, if you write enough code and things to do that, like of course, but like,
But
if you
in-
look at how a SIEM works, like event correlation engines and alerting and tying them to CVEs and
Okay,
a ton of different there's a ton of work that's in a SIEM that is really hard to build in queries, quote unquote,
So this is where, like, if you are a Snowflake partner, perhaps, and you can build out a solution on top of it and then resell that to other customers and things like that. But there's a lot of building necessary.
Yeah.
Just like people use Splunk to create a scene, there's a lot of custom reporting needed to get there. Okay.
Yeah, most of the systems that say they have a SIEM really don't have it well out of the box. Splunk is one of those. I don't think they do a great job out of the box. I haven't looked at it yet, but Datadog has released one. I have hope that they'll do a better job. I haven't looked at theirs yet.
All right. Anything else before we move on to the next topic?
I was just, the only thing I was going to just add to that is that building a SIEM is a very complicated thing, and it probably not one of the, even at the largest of enterprises, it's not one of those things that that would be considered differentiated work for your, for your organization. So you should purchase a SIEM from someone who does that for a living and sends it to other people, and use this new format as an easy way to get, to get your data into that SIEM and concentrate on the 20% of things that make your business unique. Because I can't imagine that you make money from building your own SIEM unless you're a SIEM provider.
So this is interesting. So OpenSearch, this is Amazon's fork, right, of Elastic, and there is some SIEM solution for it.
Yeah, they launched that a month or two ago. It's annoying. It's basically, hey, we have OpenSearch as a product inside AWS. Let's filter on logs and see if somebody's trying to attack you or if there's a security vulnerability, because we don't have Inspector and Detective and Security Hub and all those tools. We're gonna do it in OpenSearch, which was really annoying and an MVP, and I didn't think that much of it, but I haven't dived deep into it. It just annoyed me to no end that it was a thing inside OpenSearch.
I apologize. My apology. I didn't actually get the annoying part.
Why is it in OpenSearch? Like, shouldn't this be in Detective, Amazon Inspector, Amazon Security Hub? Why do they do this in OpenSearch? How does it compare with the other tools? Because there's a lot of overlap. It's just Amazon's two pizza teams, everybody's working on something, and there's a lot of overlap. And that's really annoying because security is not something that, in my view, you want to have in 5,000 different places.
Yeah, I think that it's probably fair to say that the way that SIEMs and incidents, incident analysis works in the industry, like right now, is that you aggregate all the possible log data that you can to a single spot, and then you have an engine that runs on that, correlates events, and runs rules on top of it to figure out if something is suspicious or not, and then flags that. And then there's usually alerting and other things tied to that, and then workflows to close those things out and do reporting and all that kind of thing. But I think at the core of it, it's generally a search and data aggregation problem on top of it. And I think that OpenSearch is probably the tool that most well aligns to that from that level of things. But I agree that there are too many point solutions and not enough like integrated solutions. Like if they came out with like, Amazon SIEM, that would make a whole hell of a lot more sense, to me than to have a little piece of it in 100 different products, which is what they currently seem to have.
Yeah, I agree with that. Vlad, I saw you posted an aside there, non sequitur. GitHub deprioritized GitHub packages. Where did you see that?
Give me a second. So as some of you might know, I am aggressively online, which is a problem, but that also means I'm subscribed to like literally thousands of GitHub issues, including watching the whole GitHub roadmap thing. And a lot of issues regarding packages got this message. This is no longer planned due to a change in our strategic priorities and the allocation of our resources towards higher priority thingies. So it looks like everything not everything, but a lot of the things they were planning for GitHub packages, which wasn't super mature, to put it nicely, got deprioritized. So like if you were waiting for anything dramatic or waiting for something to improve there, sorry to ruin your hopes and dreams.
That's interesting. Yeah, so that's actually two announcements in one. It'd be interesting. So this message was more or less copy and pasted into a lot of issues, 6 issues.
Yeah, it was also PHP, Helm charts, generic package support.
Yeah.
GitHub packages was something that I was considering in the past because it was just so nicely integrated, but it had terrible performance and support and big limitations for open source like anonymous polls. So I didn't use it at all, but I was keeping an eye on it. And with this, it's just like, bye-bye GitHub packages. For me, not for everybody, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's yeah. So that's why I reacted to, because we have our Cloud Posse packages that we syndicate with all the tools that we depend on, which has grown and grown. And I was hoping
prioritize the couple of things. They aren't deprecating GitHub packages. Like, let's just make it clear. Like,
but we wanted like standard packages like RPM and Debian and Alpine support, and they weren't going in that direction.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
So we use a company called Cloudsmith that helps us out as an open source company, but they're a great host for building packages for you.
I pasted in the Zoom chat the link to the issue that was, hey, we want generic packages. So stuff like RPM and other stuff. We got the same message 3 hours ago. I'm sorry.
I got the gist here.
Quick question. Is there any reason to not continue using it today? Because we've started switching away from using Docker Hub to GitHub for our public repos and publishing all of our Docker images within GitHub. But with this recent announcement, Vlad, I don't know if you saw anything. Was there anything like negative towards the Docker container registry?
I mean, it's terrible, but no. Like, continue using it. Like, they're not gonna invest more in GitHub packages for now. They might change their mind 3 months, 6 months after this. But if it's working for you, continue using it. I wouldn't stress about it. I didn't use their container registry because the pull performance wasn't great. Folks had to authenticate to pull images without getting rate limited. And yeah, it was, when I was comparing it with ECR public, it just wasn't that good. But yeah, I don't think them deprioritizing GitHub packages for a little while is enough cause for concern to the level of warranting a migration. Like, if you're there, still use it. If you are waiting for something, stop waiting for it. That's it. I wouldn't just yet start migrating away from it just because of this.
Yep. Thanks for the feedback.
All right. For what it's worth, we've switched over to using Amazon's public registry for distributing a lot of our public images. That's been fine. That's it.
Yeah, it was either going to be Amazon or Quay. So
yeah,
great.
If you're already on Amazon, then I would say public ECR makes a lot of sense because it fits within the model of everything else, the whole permissions model and so forth. I haven't checked what our bill is on that, but I assume we're paying something for it. And obviously it was nice on Docker Hub, not having to worry about hosting public images, which is also problematic because a lot of the images that we do offer up are used in CI/CD contexts. And yeah, that can get expensive.
Yeah, I think when I looked at public ECR, I think like they give you a certain amount of bandwidth for free, and then I'm sure you folks are blowing right through that. But then I think it's like requester pays, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there though.
Not on public, because there's no requester. Like you don't have an Amazon account if you're using public ECR as a requester.
Well, I think there's
I think you pay for storage for public.
And bandwidth.
All right. I can't see.
It says it there. You get 500 gigs of free data bandwidth every month, after which you can sign up or sign into an Amazon account, or you can the publishing account can basically like pay for it.
Yeah, so I would assume in your case, Eric, you folks are the people are just authenticating and upgrading to like get past those limits, I would assume, or hopefully you're not eating the costs on that.
Well, this would be per downloader, and this is not in aggregate, right, Matt Calhoun? This is
yes, I
anyone.
believe. Right, but I don't know how they can tell that you're who you are.
Based on the IP. So if somebody is pulling your image in AWS, so downloading from it, that's free. If somebody is pulling your image to, I don't know, Google Cloud, you get 5 terabytes for free, and then you pay $0.09 per gigabyte.
But do they do that per IP, or do they do that like do they treat every non-business IP as like?
It's right there. That's the one, without using an AWS account. They're basically saying that if you don't authenticate, this is insinuating that if you don't authenticate, you can't get more than 500 gigs a month.
Well, that needs to be clarified, because you could be, if you jump onto an EC2 instance that doesn't have an instance profile, you're not authenticated. So would it then charge you? Or
That's inside AWS, so no, it wouldn't charge you.
They need to rewrite that then, because it says AWS account. I mean, you're not doing it from your AWS account at that point. You're doing it from your, right?
Well, now we can go practice Vlad's suggestion. Just go here, click contact us, submit the form, let us know when you get the get the update.
So it's on Amazon networks is what they mean, really, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what's unclear to me is if you have your own data center and you're running your own cluster inside your own data center, you bought bandwidth from, AT&T or whatever, and you are pulling a bunch of public images, what would happen? I think according to what my understanding is, once you get to 500 gigs a month, you'll get rate limited, and there's no way to unrate limit yourself. That's kind of my understanding of public ECR, but maybe I'm wrong.
And I assume that's the only way they could do that is by IP and not subnet or something.
Assume that's true, but
it actually said that, Ira. It said it in one of the bullets there. Data transfer out from public is limited by source IP, so AWS networks probably, or if you're authenticated is what it means. So it's just both, I think.
All right, we have decrypted the documentation.
Yeah.
Could I suggest an improvement on how to fix this documentation?
I'm not sure if you were joking or serious.
I'm serious, but now given our earlier topic, I can't do that anymore.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, next topic. Boy, we are having fun today with these announcements. This was an announcement, caught my eye. TruffleHog, we brought it up before. It's one of the multitude of tools and now actions out there that can scan repositories for secrets. One of the things that makes TruffleHog stand out is it'll reduce potentially some of the noise you get, because it can actually validate that those credentials are in fact working, and it knows that, I don't know how many APIs at this point, but I think it's like in the hundreds or something to do that. So with this, there's now an easy way to integrate TruffleHog into your GitHub Actions. Also, TruffleHog can scan things that aren't just GitHub repositories. It can scan S3 buckets for credentials. It can scan other sources for sensitive information. This makes it stand out from like the GitHub feature for credential scanning. Of course, the GitHub implementation can block it before it even hits the code. In this case, this would already have hit the code or hit the branch or that you're working on. So that's the difference. Anything to add to this? All right.
They actually mentioned in there the canary tokens. I actually really use that a lot for when I write documentation. It's pretty cool. Like if you go check it out, you basically select like what kind of a token you want, and it will give you like a fake token of those things.
A token that matches the format.
The format and everything, but isn't real, like
a credit card number
credentials.
generator kind of.
Yeah, exactly, like that. Yeah.
However, I also use canary tokens. I will say it does return like a valid tokens. Like if you called STS, get caller identity with that, like an AWS key, for example, it says, you're valid, and it says something like canary tokens.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it just has zero permissions other than to call it like STS.
Pretty much, I think. I mean, I don't know how they do it behind the scenes, but it's a great way to like get a first kind of like a, anything you put, wouldn't people have access to. It's like a nice little canary, I guess.
That's cool. All right. Let's see. Next topic was iPhone. This was shared internally. I'm not going to play it here, but there were some non-obvious things that most of us with an iPhone probably do not do that we should be doing in order to prevent our Apple IDs from getting taken over, and then the misery that would ensue trying to prove who you are to Apple to get it back. So there's some pretty straightforward things you can do to mitigate that in this video. We'll share the links afterwards. Just thought I would share one link on Reddit, self-serving. There's a common question on Reddit, but how to manage large projects with Terraform. And I posted a comment here as a kind of use case on why we've created the tool sets that we have and the problems that we solve with it. The poster talks about very slow Terraform runs taking 30, 45 minutes. Well, that's a clear indicator that you're running a Terralift and it should be broken apart. The problem is with Terraform is once you start breaking apart your Terraform root modules into smaller root modules, you need some way to manage that. And the configuration gets complex. So that's why we created a tool called Atmos. Atmos helps orchestrate those workflows, helps you dry up the configuration to work with it and create workflows around it. Matt, were you going to say something? No? All right. So that was that post. AWS announcement. There was, they've just announced a Live Tail for CloudWatchLogs. So that's pretty cool. If you're using CloudWatch, obviously with like ECS or even EKS logs, you can now tail those through AWS APIs and get them in real time.
How much do you pay for the bandwidth?
Good question. Do not know.
Funny enough, it's faster to just go into CloudWatchLogs and look at them. I posted a link to a tweet from Matthew, who actually benchmarked it yesterday.
Interesting. So in the UI, it's 8-second delay, but 10 to 13-second delay with Logtail.
The question is can you get to that spot in the UI in less than 5 seconds?
It seemed to me, it seems like 8 to 60 seconds is ridiculous. 8 to 10 seconds is, I guess, reasonable.
Yeah. I did the 13. I'm saying like literally I can't open the AWS console and get to CloudWatchLogs of what I'm trying to look for in less than 5 seconds. So that's a wash to me.
Good. All right. Next announcement was code scanning, actually, or container signing rather. This is interesting because I believe just at the last office hours, this was one of the complaints raised for trying to achieve compliance and certain FedRAMP standards was container scanning. So code container signing. I keep saying the wrong thing. So that is now available using AWS Signer. Ask and you shall receive. And the last one.
Well, I was going to say that's also a way that you can ensure that you only use your own like vendored versions of certain images out there as well. Right. Like you only use the ones that you've signed after you've like pulled them in, run your scanning, and signed them.
That's a really good point. And then
that's one of our fundamental requirements. So we've been signing for a long time. And I think everybody should be doing it if you care at all about security, because nearly every major hack of the last year has been a supply chain hack. So you should absolutely sign the stuff you use.
Are you using Gatekeeper or something else?
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to say. All right.
I do use Kyverno for verification, but for the signing, there's lots of options.
Yeah, I guess this is for the verification here. Gatekeeper.
It also supports Kyverno.
Yeah, their thing support. They're using an open source tool. I mean, they're using Notary underneath the hood. So there are that it's not Amazon. The way they're signing, they're providing the signing mechanism for you, but it's using Notary. So there's tons of different tools that can work with Notary, Kyverno, Gatekeeper. You can make your own to do the validation.
The last link saying launch blog, if you click on that, you're gonna get the actual stuff that explains it. So right on the lower right, there is launch blog. If you click on that, Eric, it's gonna take you to the launch blog post, which has a bunch more details and a walkthrough and everything, and links to the relevant docs and projects and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think just clarifying that. So Gatekeeper and Kyverno are actually the admission controllers that will say whether or not you can launch that image. Then like signing it is a different, like work path, if you will, like getting the image to be signed. And then that's just verifying that you can only use signed images.
Which Amazon didn't write. Amazon took Notary.
Yeah.
They've been working on this for a while. There's a GitHub issue for it. They took Notary and wrapped it, probably tied it to their own HSM or KMS or something, and made it easy for you to have that. And one of the challenges with code signing is if everybody that's used Red Hat or CentOS anyway knows that every file is signed with GPG. Well, someone has to maintain that server, that CA. There's a lot of effort with that. So this reduces that effort to a major degree.
I'm curious, I didn't understand, why would Amazon go out and write their own admission controller as opposed to just talking about how to use one of the other ones?
Because AWS has many 2 pizza teams and nobody can share their pizza. So a team built this too.
Or they wanted something really specific instead of a larger tool. We almost went with a specific signing verification tool, And then we settled on Kyberno because we're like, if we're going to have an admission controller, we might as well have an admission controller that can do other things rather than just one thing. So I'm not sure why they would bother making one because they exist already.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. And the last announcement was a small one. ECR pull-through cache adds the registry, the Kubernetes registry as an upstream for pull-through. So that's nice. Why can't it, since we're paying for it anyways, why can't we just pull through any, OCI compatible Docker registry?
Because then every OCI compatible Docker registry would get a DDoS from Amazon.
Okay. I got
Well,
well,
presumably their caching layer would prevent that from happening.
Exactly.
I think he's right.
Like-
They probably make deals with
Like
us.
this is a pull through cache, and that this basically pulls the images to an ECR repo in your account.
Yeah, I know.
Like they could do a cache, but that would be a multi-tenant cache, which comes with security concerns and privacy concerns. And you definitely don't want AWS to see what images you're pulling. And AWS really doesn't want to know that because it exposes them to risk. So
Well,
yeah.
they already see it. I'm just saying that if one customer requests, whatever, kubectl, the public kubectl image here, they could, at a certain SHA, they could basically just like cache it once and make it available to every public or every ECR repo that is pull through cache for that one at that hash. It wouldn't be that hard, but yeah, I don't know. It seems a little silly, but I get your point. But it seems like an engineering problem that an organization the size of Amazon's with the number of engineering resources they have could easily solve.
Especially since, very funnily, I don't know if you all saw, they released the research paper about how they do the image caching for container lambdas and how they launch containers lambda so fast. It was fascinating. And one of the things were like 90% of all container images are identical. You can get a lot of quick wins. Eric, there was also another announcement I posted in the office hours chat. Lambda now supports Ruby 3.2. Yay!
All right.
It's a big deal for some folks because they really wanted a newer Ruby version.
What is the latest Ruby version? I'm not up to speed on the versions.
3.2 is the latest LTS, I want to say. I could be wrong on that.
I
Let
gotcha.
me check. The latest version is 3.2, yes.
Okay. So it brings it current. All right. Well, I wanted to make sure we got to some questions here. Anyone have any questions we can answer as a group?
Has anyone upgraded to provider 5.0 yet? Like 100%? I'll take the silence as an
You
no.
mean
I'm waiting till all of
5.1?
y'all
Yeah.
y'all suffer with the
Yes.
support bugs. That's my plan.
You mean
Yes.
5.1.1?
We have 700 stacks running AWS provider 5.0.
Oh, awesome. I assume it just worked, or was it a huge lift, like all hands on deck to get that upgrade done?
It was a non-event.
Oh, cool.
One of the issues
Oh god. Yeah, I was just gonna say the stacks, 700 stacks were not running S3 then. I can like there were definitely breaking changes out there.
It's going to depend on the
we were advantaged by Cloud Posse preparing for that. So, and when we cut over casually on a Thursday over a weekend, and we had no problems at all.
Jeremy's been
So there
working.
was definitely prep done ahead, but it was a non-event for us.
Cool.
But I do know there were a couple, I mean, there were snags I know we hit as part of that process. One of them was resolved with 5.1.1 or something, or 5.1, which was something breaking in the Kubernetes provider within Terraform. Oh, well, that's not AWS provider, so never mind. That was totally unrelated. So I got that mixed up. Do you remember what was fixed in 5.1? Matt, no.
I don't remember off the top of my head now. All these things start to like
Yeah.
blend together after a while. My memory is terrible for that stuff. I have to go look again.
So is Cloud Posse using 5.1? Like, is that kind of the direction you folks are already on now, or are you folks still?
Yeah, I think last I checked, like this morning, I think we were done with 65% of our modules. But there's, the remaining ones have a little bit more effort, as there were maybe breaking things or more code changes that had to be made. But it's something we're actively doing. It's a DOS attack that happens to us, I guess, once a year, every time one of these things happens.
Cool.
Yeah, and yeah, if you're affected by something not working, or you have a PR waiting or something like that, you can always tag us in the PR reviews channel. And we're monitoring that pretty consistently now with our PMs. So we'll try.
Yeah, I just saw the release notes, and I wasn't here in last week's office hour. I saw the release notes for 5.1. I'm like, whoa, there's a lot going on in 5.1. So wasn't sure if anyone's actually pulled the trigger. It sounds like a few of you have, so that's awesome. We're on the latest 4.0 release right now, and so considering you folks are 65%, Michael here has over 700 stacks. Those are some numbers to work with. And pull the trigger. Thanks everyone, appreciate it.
Also, just another repeat of a public service announcement we did before. As a result of rolling out V5 support in all of our modules, we are also taking the opportunity to upgrade to our latest GitHub Actions, which have really modernized how we are using GitHub Actions across our open source. It's been a long-running project to do. So we've migrated everything over to shared workflows, using a lot of composite actions that are opinionated to the processes that we use. But also what we're doing is rolling out release branches. And what that means is we have now the ability to move faster in rolling out changes to our Terraform modules, while still being able to receive updates to older versions of our modules. We're not committing to backporting anything between older versions, but we are committing to maintaining stable versions of those older modules as needed. So look out for that. We're also adding, as part of this, a floating major tag. So, if you pin to like at v2, every minor and patch release, the latest version of that, the at v2 tag will point to. I don't know if that at v2 thing is supported by the Terraform registry, but I'm curious. It definitely would work if you're using the Git VC, the Git direct Git URLs.
Yeah, I don't think the Terraform registry does. I think it requires full semver.
That's been my experience as well.
Okay. Yeah, we did this. We're rolling it out as part of it, but we did it mostly for our GitHub Actions, where it's pretty common to use that convention. Jim Park asks, curious if you're using the semantic release action. We use release drafter, which is slightly different. So release drafter is a very practical way of maintaining semver, where you just label your pull request if it's patch, minor, or major, and then upon merge, it will take the correct action. and draft a release or publish a release.
Yeah, it defaults the patch, and you only actually have to label it if it's minor or major.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you can make it fail if there's no merge and force someone to opt into one of the three.
Yeah, let's see if I play roulette here and see if this has been up. Oops. See if this one's been updated. Yeah, this is that latest one. So these are the new workflows that have been pushed out, and you'll see that they are shared workflows. So that means we can centrally manage our workflows in an efficient manner. And then if I were to open up our centralized repository of the workflows, you would be able to see what happens like when a release is published. So here's the complete work. Well, okay, so that's broken down into additional shared workflows as well as we have. I forget this one, why it needs to do that, but yeah. Here's the one that manages the release branches, and then that one calls the GitHub Actions. Oops, published, typo there.
I was just sending a note about the same thing. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
I was gonna
you got further than me.
All right, well, can you finish sending it?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. All right, but here's the beautiful thing with that. Since it's a centralized action, we edit it in one place, everything benefits. All right. Well, we are basically out of time for today. Thanks everyone for participating in our office hours. Hope you enjoyed all the announcements. We'll be posting a recording of this session to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/cloudposse to subscribe. Also a great way to share all the announcements or any interesting segments you had with your team. Connect with me on LinkedIn by going to linkedin.com/in/Osterman. I like to connect with every one of our regulars here. If you are curious about Cloud Posse, want to kind of see behind the scenes what the solution looks like, how it could benefit you, I'd be happy to show you what that looks like. Go to cloudposse.com/quiz. Again, cloudposse.com/quiz, answer a few quick questions, and you'll book a session directly with me. We syndicate our podcast at podcast.cloudposse.com. It's available on all major podcast platforms, including Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, etc., Spotify. So it's another great way to consume our office hours if you can't make our live sessions. Thanks everyone for attending. We will see you here next week, same time, same place. If you haven't registered, go to cloudposse.com/office hours. Again, cloudposse.com/office hours. And you can register for these. All right. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.